So good afternoon, everybody. This is Lynn Wadsworth from Holistic Health and Wellness, our podcast, Living Life Naturally. And today I am thrilled to have on with me a longtime colleague and friend, Renee Hunt. She actually lives in Canada. And I'm excited to have her here because she is going to start us off with learning how to do things with our muscles and our body and the whole fitness thing that is not my area of expertise. So now Renee helps women that are 40 and beyond learn how to incorporate real strength training as part of weight management. And she helps women overcome the unknown when it comes to lifting weights, engaging the proper hormones to get lean in less time, something we all want. And she creates her signature program, the Lean in Less Time Lift program for women, as she saw a real void in this area. So we all know we have stressful lives, extended cardio routines, along with just not knowing when to start or where to start, prompted Renee to create a program. So she teaches women how to lift real weight right in the comfort of home. Her program allows women to spend less time in their workouts and create bodies that actually burn more calories at rest or even sitting at the computer. So that's definitely something I definitely need. She has played and loved sports all of her life, and she calls herself the jock in heels. She is, as you'll see, a really beautiful petite woman who really takes care of herself. So she has been doing this. She's been in the fitness industry over 20 years as a group fitness instructor, and for the last 5 years as healthy eating and weight loss coach with advanced training through precision nutrition. She mentors women in this area, so I'm super excited to have her here with us today. So welcome, Renee. And so let's get going. And is there anything else that you want to say about yourself that maybe I missed out?
Well, first of all, Lynn, I want to say a big thank you to you for having me on. I'm super excited. Yes, we go back a long ways, and we have been talking about this for quite some time. So I'm really super excited to be here with you. And I think you've hit pretty much everything. I think there will be perhaps some more things that, come up as we go along.
I'm sure. So when it comes to women and exercise, what is one area that women tend to do wrong?
Okay. I know I have to choose just one, and that's really difficult. But if I had to narrow it down just to one, I would say that it has to do with cardio training and probably overtraining in cardio. So we may have some women who perhaps don't do, maybe anything or much at all. But on the other hand, we may have women who all they do is cardio. And I call them cardio junkies because I used to be a cardio junkie myself. And in fact, really, as women are getting older, 40 and plus, 40s, 50s and beyond, I say that they tend to train like they're in their 20s rather than their 40s and 50s.
So how do they train differently? Why would you say that is?
Sure. Well, it really has to do with muscle and muscle loss through the decades. So if we look at the 20s, in our 20s, there's not a significant loss of muscle mass during that decade. So if we think about it as a percentage out of 100, then we think of cardio and weight training. So when we're in our 20s, we can look at doing about 25% weightlifting as compared to 75% of that cardio. And now when we move into our 30s, that's when scientists have found that we start to decline in our muscle mass. Muscle starts to decrease in our 30s. So in our 30s, that's a good time now to start to increase the amount of weightlifting that you're doing. So in our 30s, we could look at doing about a 50-50 split of the weightlifting to, people would consider to be traditional cardio. And then as we move into our 40s, then you can really think of it as a flip now of your 20s. So now, because again, we're dealing with that muscle mass loss, now we're looking at 75% of our time focusing on the weight training as compared to what traditionally we would view as cardio at 25%. And then when we hit our 50s and beyond, really and truly, we can look at doing 100% of our exercise routine based around weight training, weightlifting.
Wow, that's amazing, because you just don't think about it statistically like that. You know, I hear from doctors, get out and walk, get out and get the fresh air, and they really don't promote so much, at least here in the US, to do the weight training, but yet really that's the most important thing for us as we age.
Absolutely. And really and truly, I would probably agree with that in Canada as well. And our doctors, we need them, we love them to death. What would we do without them? But they'd probably be the first ones to say as well that they don't know a whole lot about exercise and specifically perhaps we should be doing weight training versus the cardio, but they know we need to move, right? They know that sedentary lifestyle is that sitting is what they deem the new smoking now, and so they know that we need to move, right? We need to move. So I would say that's probably the same here in Canada as well.
Wow. So, and why is it? Why do you think that women shy away from the weightlifting portion of their healthy regimen?
Oh, absolutely. I found working with women many reasons, but I think probably the biggest one is that they have this idea in their mind that when they start to lift weights, that they're going to somehow become or look like, I call it like a Russian bodybuilder, just really big and bulky. They have that in their mind, and usually I can determine that right away, because one of the questions that I ask my clients is, okay, now, so when it comes to your goals and body composition, are you interested in developing more muscle mass? And more often than not, I would say 90% of the time, it's no. Wow. I'm not interested in muscle mass. So that's what I know right away, that, okay, I have a little bit of gentle education to do here with my clients. And really the fact that, we women do not have the hormonal capacity to grow those big, huge muscles that we're a little bit scared of. And I think always when we hear the term, weight training, weightlifting, we think of those bodybuilder women, for example. Right? And I know very few women who want, very few, I mean, there's some out there, but very few everyday ladies that want to look like that. It's almost a little bit scary to them. And they do really truly believe that that's what they're going to look like. And so I do have to let them know, you know what, we don't have the hormonal capacity as females to look like that. If somebody looks like that, we have to remember that that is not, that's not real life. That is training maybe 8 hours a day for some women to look like that. And the amount of manipulation to their food, their water, etc., that's necessary to look like that, they don't live like that every day. There's a certain period of time when they're going into competition that they might want to look like that, but they don't live like that every day. So that's an aside, really, because that's a whole different way of training, not what I do. So we sort of have to differentiate that for women and let them know and feel comfortable that you won't, trust me, you will not look like that. Developing muscle for women is actually quite difficult.
Yeah, and I realized that from, even people like my daughter going to the gym, she really has to work at it to get that muscle workout. And we don't make those big muscles easily at all.
No, absolutely. I that's the one thing I found working with women is, particularly if they have a husband at home who decides to start working out with them at the same time, or maybe always has, but whatever it might be, if he decides to, pick up the weights and start working out with her, they see that, okay, he seems to be improving and making these muscle gains much faster than myself. And that's when they really start to see that. Yeah, that it's just, you're not going to pick up a weight and then all of a sudden, have muscles that look, like they've ballooned overnight kind of thing.
So do you think that some of it for us as women, as we age, we're always afraid that if we build up muscle, it's going to stop us from losing weight? So where is the misconception there with the weight loss?
Yes, absolutely. Women we're really tied to the number, right? We're tied to the number on the scale. And yourself, myself, there's always those numbers that come into play because we need to, that's how we, share with our client, how, they're moving along. And so it can be a little bit tricky because women don't want to see those numbers on the scale necessarily go up, because it's, for most of us as females, we're really tied to that number. So it's very difficult for women to get their head around at first. It definitely takes some time. It's a practice, but we also talk about the importance of measurements and how important it is to see the measurements going down, and looking at your clothing and how they're fitting, for example.
Right. So, and I do the same in my practice, really, because I try not to go by the numbers. If they're eating whole, nutritious foods, you're not looking at the numbers, but you're looking at the size difference and the inches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is one of the things that I love to talk about. And when, I usually do my webinar in conjunction, when I release my program through the year. And that's one of my most the area that I love to talk about the most. And I could kind of go on and on about that, but I'd love to share with women how, the difference in, comparing the structure of muscle as compared to the structure of fat. And so we'll look at some pictures and I'll share with them. But for those of your people who are, tuning in and listening, we sometimes will compare it, if you take, say, like a small, navel orange as compared to a large grapefruit. So if you wanted to, kind of compare the two, because, often we talk about, people, they say, muscle weighs more than fat, but a pound is a pound. So, but the difference between the two is in their structure, and that muscle takes up a lot less space. It's very dense. It's heavier in terms of the space that it takes up. Whereas if you look at, the same weight of body fat, the space it takes up is much, much larger. And the two are structurally very, very different, and how they function is very, very different, actually. So your muscle is very metabolically active. So that's kind of sort of where my programming comes in, to tell women, even just sitting at your desk or sleeping at night, by building this muscle on your body, you can be burning more calories at rest, because muscle is very, very metabolically active. Whereas compared to body fat, it is not active at all. It's lazy, and it doesn't really need a lot of calories to survive. Whereas a muscle, I call it like an incinerator. It loves those calories, and it wants them, and it'll burn them up. So again, and I actually wrote down a few stats because I wanted to share some numbers out there. So scientists have determined that for every pound of muscle, we can burn 6 calories a day while resting. So stick with me on this one, because you think, 6 calories a day, that doesn't sound very much, right? So if we compare that to body fat will burn 2 calories a day. Wow. So So muscle already is burning 3 times the amount as fat. Now, so let's just look at the numbers over time, right, as they accumulate. So that really translates into 20 calories. So if let's talk about 10 pounds of fat. So if you had 10 pounds of fat on your body, that means that it is using up 20 calories a day. Whereas if you had 10 pounds of muscle, we're burning an extra 60 calories a day.
Wow.
And again, so the number's like, okay, now we're kind of talking, a little something more significant. But now let's look at that over a year. So if we take that 10 pounds of fat over a year and what's it burning in terms of calories? Well, now we're looking at 7,300 calories or approximately 2 pounds. That fat is really using up in the body. Whereas if we had that 10 pounds of muscle over the course of a year, we're burning 21,900 calories or approximately 6 pounds.
Wow.
So again, 3 times the amount. So that's in a year. And that's just, working towards, building muscle. So as we slowly build that muscle, that is where that extra calorie burn through the day, through the months, through the years comes from.
So then so a lot of my women will say, well, I'm in my 50s, I don't have a metabolism anymore, it's slowed down. So some of that then really has to do with us being lazy about our muscle mass and not building muscle mass.
Absolutely. We can't discredit, the things that women may have inherently going on that may interfere with their weight loss. And we know what that, and we could go on and on about things like that. Maybe they're dealing with heart disease, diabetes, all of those sorts of things that could interfere, high stress levels. There's a lot of things that could come into play with that. But essentially, as women, as we progress through the years, what I have found is that most women are resigned to the fact, or the idea, because it's not a fact, the idea that, oh, well, this is what happens when you're 40 plus, you get the spare tire, your metabolism slows down, and I guess you just got to live with it. So, and I'm here to say that that's not true.
That's right.
It's not the way it has to be. And when I first started out in this game, this fitness and health game years and years and years ago, it was about how we look, right? How we look. But now as I've, aged myself, and I myself am 46, I'm thinking about moving into my later years with vitality, with vigor.
Right.
And it is definitely shown, having that muscle on your body to support your joints, and to be able to lift up your grandchildren, move with vigor, vitality is very much linked to developing and working on the muscle at any age.
Yeah, so that's great news, because so many of us have bought into that lie that, gosh, by the time you hit 50, your metabolism's gone down the drain and it's gone for good. And it really isn't.
It really isn't. Really, really, it's not.
Yeah, we buy into so many of these lies. Another one that comes to mind is that for a lot of women, they don't do weightlifting because it sounds such a huge, daunting task for them. So give us a little information about that.
Absolutely. And when I started working with women with the healthy, eating as a weight loss coach, it always came back. It's kind of interesting. It always came back to, now what about exercise? And if I happen to be working with women in the exercise realm, it always came back to food, right? So the two always mesh. They always come together. And so as I was working with women in nutrition and weight loss, this came up. And I would ask them, what is it that they do for exercise? And most often or not, it was, the long jog, whatever it might be. And most of my women are very busy, professional, working women, usually with families, a significant other at home. Their lives are crazy busy. Right. So they do the simplest thing, right, which is cardio, right? Because they find they can just put on their runners and go, and it's mindless. And I could go on and on about why we have to be really cautious with that extended cardio. But when it comes to the weight training, that's just it. They said, I don't know where to start. It's so daunting. To enter a gym, for example, like, where do I start? What do I even do? So I think for most women that's sort of the factor there, right? The sort of that blocks them, that stops them. So I could talk a little bit more about, my program, but before I do, because what I'll say to my ladies is, if they're not quite ready for that, using your own body weight to train is an excellent way to go about starting, because it's very inexpensive. You need next to no equipment. And I say that it's really important to know how to move your own weight, your own body weight, safely and effectively before now we go and load you with weight. So start with that solid foundation. And that is I say the words as simple, but I realize that's not the case for many women. But starting with the basic moves, like learning how to squat and do it safely, learning how to lunge and do it safely. And those are things you can do right in your own office. Learning, proper posture for going down into a plank, even a modified plank. That you don't need any external weights. We know how difficult that is just on it, right? So there's that. So starting with your own body weight, and that is what my free gift is all about. That we'll be talking about. And don't do too much too soon. What I have found in the past with women, and why I've made my own program a certain way, is that they'll take on too much too soon, too much weight too soon. They can't even hold that much weight. Their hands fatigue and they lose their form, and then they get injured. So not taking on too much too soon, and just moving incrementally and progressing, so that we really avoid a plateau as well.
Right. And it is a progression, because I know from my own experience, because I've worked with trainers, going in there with a sense of dread, because I know that maybe my balance is off, or I'm not really very good at this. And if you find a good trainer, like I know you are, you're going to work with the people and teach them in a way that's not going to hurt them, but going to build the muscle in a way that complements their body. And I was amazed at how quickly my balance came back when I was working with somebody.
Yes, absolutely. And that my background is also in sports. And sports training, and developing things like balance and training balance, and developing strong core muscles and all type of movements that you do. So yes, absolutely. And particularly as we age, right, we lose that balance, and then it can also be daunting for people who are dealing with the whole balance issue as well. Absolutely.
Yes. So what's your approach to nutrition as it relates to weight loss? I know for many people, this is also daunting for them, because they think, oh, I'm building my muscle, I'm going to the gym, I've got to eat this and eat that. And so how do you approach that?
Absolutely. And again, this is one where we could probably go on and on, right, Lynn? Yeah, absolutely. And again, for me to kind of pick just sort of one thing, or kind of put it into a nutshell, when it comes to nutrition, what I have found and what I've seen to work most well with my clients is practicing the habits. So not even yet jumping into like macros, protein, fats, carbs, not even going there yet. I mean, that, that's, we do talk about that, but working on the habits every day that will move you a little bit closer to your goal. And I know a lot of people will go, well, that's kind of wishy-washy, sort of thing. But what I've seen in my practice is, when I started with my clients, years back, I would give them this beautiful meal plan, with breakfast, dinner, supper, what they, snacks, what they should be having for snacks. And I wasn't meeting the people where they were at, and meaning that at home the fridge was empty, right? They didn't even know how to go grocery shopping yet, right? So it depends where the individual is at. But with that said, it doesn't matter if, you know, you're well versed in your knowledge of food and macros, or you're not. It's putting it into practice that is where you're going to see the results. So little by little, and I always bring this back to a simple analogy. And if I may take a moment, Lynn,
Sure.
I'll share with my clients, okay, let's say, for example, you have a loved one, a child, significant other, whoever it might be, and they say to you, you know what, I would like to learn how to play the guitar. Great, let's sign you for lessons. Away you go, and you go to your first lesson. All good, all goes well, and you go home, and the instructor said, now, you know, you need to practice this, this, and this, and then when you come back next week, then we'll move on to the next thing. That child, significant other, the week goes by, they haven't practiced, and they go back and they go in and they come out of their lesson and they're huffing and they're puffing and they're saying, well, this really is no good. I cannot learn how to play guitar. I'm done. So as the loved one, the parent of that person, what would your response be, right? Likely it would be, well, hold on a minute. Don't you think that maybe if you want to get a little bit better, you're going to have to practice a little bit? It's not going to just happen magically or overnight, right? You say it takes some time. But the funny thing is, when it comes to health, nutrition, for some reason, we feel that we should have it perfectly right. Automatically. And we've never practiced it before. If we've never, you know, practiced weekly going to the grocery store, and instead we'll go and stop at the fast food place, or, you know, just what's quick and easy, how can we expect then all of a sudden we're going to have every meal completely perfect, right? It just doesn't work that way. But for some reason, we think that it should. And then when it doesn't, we think we've failed.
And then we think that we have to keep on that road and never make mistakes. And you know, as a fitness person and myself as a health coach, there are many times I fall off the wagon, so to speak, and have to pick myself up and get back on track and back into those healthy habits. I mean, we don't live a perfect lifestyle.
Absolutely. One of the things we like to say when I work with my clients is that there's no such thing as failure. It's only feedback. Feedback. Okay, so that's not working for you. Let's pivot. Let's look at what we can. Maybe we need to pull it back a little bit, and let's work with what you're ready for.
Right. Sometimes I've had very few clients that were just ready to jump in wholeheartedly. And I have had some, and they've been hugely successful. But for a lot of them, it's really like, as you say, practicing and learning. And the more you practice, the better you get, and the more success you're going to have as your life goes on. Because it's a lifestyle. We have to get out of that diet mentality.
Absolutely. That's what we share, is that, you know, I want you to learn how to eat without necessarily having a meal plan. So that when you go on that holiday, or you have, you know, unexpected invite to supper, or whatever it might be, you know, with friends, you know how to eat in that situation. And sometimes, you know, if we rely too heavily on a meal plan, all of a sudden, you know, we're a little panicked, like, okay, what do I do? Because my meal is not at that restaurant.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the free offer that you have for our listeners.
Yes. So the free offer is actually one of my body weight workouts. And it is really, when I started, you know, creating, you know, programs like this, I had in mind my women who travel a lot and who are in hotels a lot, and they don't always have access to, you know, necessarily a weight room, or, you know, the training equipment that they might have at home. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to create a body weight workout. So it's a body weight workout. It's my video. You can take it anywhere you want, because it's downloadable. And then So I often will call it the hotel room workout. But now, particularly since people have been really stuck at home a lot,
Yes.
I have been finding that people are really sort of snagging it up too, because, well, it's free.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's a really good workout. And I love to show women that it's really important to be able to move your own body weight. It's a great place to start. Do I want to see you, move up to those weights? Absolutely, eventually. But not everybody's there necessarily, maybe, financially, or just not in the situation right yet to maybe, having those weights, at home, or even access to the gym right now. So, being able to have a workout where, you're, well, you'll see me, I'm huffing and puffing in it. It's a really, good workout. And it, gives you, a lot of the basics and foundations in there too.
So if everybody goes into the show notes, it will be in the show notes, and you can just click on it and download it for free. We appreciate that so much, Renee. So where can people find you? How can they find more out about you and what you do?
Sure. Well, probably right now the easiest place to find me is on Facebook. My business there, the business name is called Luster Fitness and Lifestyle.
And is it spelled the Canadian way, L-U-S-T-E-R?
L-U-S-T-R-E.
R-E, okay.
Yes, Luster Fitness and Lifestyle, yes. And that's probably the easiest place to find me. And then, of course, with the free gift as well, that's how these things work, is that there's usually, an exchange. So if anybody wants it, then they exchange their email in there. And then that's how they would get onto my mailing list, where I share lots of what I feel is really good information about how to get lean in less time, because that's the goal for most qualified women. I don't want them to have to spend oodles and more time. I like to show them how to do it, in less time, so they can get in there. And then as well, when they do that, exchange for email for the video, there's an option if they want, then they would be able to join up to the Lean in Less Time Facebook group as well.
Great. So I'll put all the links in the show notes for everybody so that they're not trying to search it out. So this is really helpful, because so many of us, as we age, it's confusing. It can be confusing for many people. And you're right, with the COVID-19, so many more people are going to let me see what I can do at home. So this is just a perfect time for them to download your offer.
Yes.
So do you have any last words of encouragement for our listeners?
Oh, yes. Again, I could go on and on with words of encouragement. I got to pick these out. I would say jump in, give it a whirl, and patience is key. Patience is key when looking to combine weight loss, muscle building. You want to lean up, you want to lose the spare tire, lots of, evidence points, maybe it took you 20 years to get here, so you're not going to get where you want to go in 3 days, right? So it takes an enormous amount of patience, and just trust that there's no such thing as failure. It's only feedback. So if you're trying something a certain way, what works for Cindy down the street might not work for you. You might just need to pivot on that. You might need to try something just a little bit different till you find what works for you.
Great. So I so appreciate you coming on and being with me today, Renee.
Well, I thank you so much for asking me. I'm so honored and happy. We've been going back and forth.
Yes,
we have. We need to try and do this. We need to try and do this. I'm so happy that it has worked out and that you asked me to be on, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Renee, and I hope we'll see you again on the show soon.
I hope so too, Lynn.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you for listening today. Bye.